doctor comes in on Monday and tells me that it's 0.9, which is less than 1%, which is what I thought. I told them I never wanted to see that woman again. Like, if you can't read simple lab results, but stuff like that. And then the fact that, I don't know if you had to do this, but like we had to do subcutaneous injections, which nurses go to school for 4 to 6, 8 years, however long, to do injections, to do cancer treatments at home, to draw blood. All of the stuff that they go to school for years for, us parents get like 30-minute trainings and we're expected just to do it. And our kids' lives are on the line.
Yeah.
So talking about knowing more than doctors, yeah, I'd say so. In the life experience part of it.
I think it's just huge. I honestly, like, I can't, it's not a personal attack or a knock on people that go to school to become a physician, especially pediatric doctors. But the reality of the situation is that you get to clock out at the end of the day and go home. And for some reason, medicine stops on the weekends. I don't understand that shit at all. We'll do that test on Monday. Like, why? Because Saturday and Sunday don't exist?
Yeah.
I mean,
wait and suffer.
Right. So it doesn't make any sense to me. It never made sense to me. And, we'll never get a tech in here on this. What do you mean you'll not get a tech in? Like, medicine is a 24/7 game. Like, I don't understand. And cancer doesn't take a break. The chemotherapies don't take a break. And what they have to go through doesn't take a break. Their feedings don't take a break. So why is it that you stop working on the weekends? That's always something that's just driven me crazy. But I mean, we had to give shots at home before the high dose stuff would start, or before her stem cells. We had to give shots at home in her thigh, which was terrible. Yeah, it was the freaking worst. And we tried everything we could to make it not so bad. And I think we did, numbing cream, whatever. We tried everything we could. The first time I ever saw my daughter's port access was the worst day of my life, aside from everything I had been through, because they missed the fucking port.
Yeah.
And had to redo it. And the look on her face of absolute pain and almost terror, and I couldn't do anything. I couldn't get in there. There were nurses, everything, whatever, they had to fix it, and they're reaching out for you. The first time I ever had to see her get COVID tested in the hospital. COVID's test, she was diagnosed January 30th, 2020. So COVID was literally here, but not here yet. And that was the last time my wife and I were able to be in the hospital together.
Yep.
Was that day. And they did COVID tests before, like you do the drive-through, whatever. Never an issue. Didn't even bother her. Going to the hospital for her first shunt surgery, they did the COVID test. I'm pretty sure that this nurse pushed the damn thing all the way up to the tip of her skull. She was freaked out and scared, and I was like, what in the hell are you doing? Like, and you're telling the other nurse to hold her down, like you're freaking her out. Now she's scared. Now it's downhill. And I never really understood, to be 100% honest with you. I'm not saying COVID isn't a thing. I'm not saying it's not. It was never a big problem. But why were we as parents never tested? I wasn't.
Nope.
I never had to take a test to be in the hospital with her. I never had to. I was supposed to wear a mask when I was in there, and I would when I was walking through the hallways, but never in the room with her. Like, so I don't know. Maybe that's a whole nother discussion, but I never understood why we as parents were never tested or forced to be tested to go in for her surgeries or MRIs or any of that kind of stuff. Whatever.
What was messed up at Riley was that when he was quarantined, like if he would be positive, I would have to be in full, like a gown, glove, mask, full, even sleeping. I would have to wear this in the room with him, but I could leave at any time, go out in public, go, I didn't work, but I could go eat, I could go shop, I could do whatever I wanted and not wear that, and then come back in and wear it. And I'm like, but I'm literally out in the public, could spread it, whatever. It makes no sense.
Yeah, I never really kind of caught on to it. And I'd mentioned earlier with, they had a norovirus outbreak, and she was quarantined in the room because she had C. diff, so she couldn't leave the room. But I could leave the room. And I actually stayed in the room for 2 days because I didn't think I was supposed to leave when they said that, she's quarantined. And I finally asked, he said, oh no, you can, do what you need to do, whatever. I'm like, how does that make any sense? Am I not going out and bringing in and whatever? That kind of stuff is, at that point, you're just trying to make their life, your children's lives, a little bit less stressful and not trying to freak them out. And, you're doing everything and, and this kind of stuff and the miscommunication, and I didn't understand. And we did have one nurse that I said was not allowed to ever be in the room again because he came in like an asshole and made her feel uncomfortable. And I said, that guy's never allowed in here again. And they said, no problem. And I never saw him again. I had one doctor that was an ass to me. And I told him, when she she had a seizure, went into a coma for 10 days. I said, we need to do a CT now, an MRI right this second. He said, we're going to do it in 2 days. I said, no, we're not. We're doing it right now. It got done, and then I never saw the doctor again. Flat out. Like, to me, you're getting into the pediatric world. If that's what you're planning on doing, you're going to have to deal with parents. And, I think that generally speaking, we're understanding because, that's our kid and that's our focus. But at the same time, we're also going to do what we can to protect them. And if that means that we're going to hurt your feelings, probably a different line of work,
Yeah. So. I don't understand. Everything is always, we'll do it in a day or two. We'll do it later where it needs to be done now. Like, cancer isn't something that's going to wait. Mm-hmm. So why should we? I think being proactive, like, I luckily have a pediatrician that's very understanding, and I get my other kids' blood work done every 6 months because I'm petrified. It's not uncommon, for a sibling to come up with a different type of cancer when you have a child that has cancer. And so I have it done every 6 months, and I might be overly paranoid, but I'd rather be overly paranoid and them get a stick than it come up out of the blue like it did with Griff. Yeah.
No, I think you're 100% on track. And to be honest with you, and I brought it up a few years ago, and maybe I'll start playing around again with it. But I think that insurance companies, and that's, again, a whole nother avenue, but I think insurance companies should cover one MRI or CT per year, completely optional. I think it should be there. So if you as a parent, especially with a history in your family or with a child that had, whatever, you should be able to say, okay, it's your yearly exam. You have the option to receive a CT or MRI, whatever they decide to do. Would you like to schedule that? Yes, no, okay, and whatever. Then it just rolls to the next year, and then that's the end of it. I think it's a good thing because we preach, right? This country preaches breast cancer, prostate cancer, all that, early detection, because you want to catch it early because that way before it spreads.
But nothing for our children.
Not a damn thing, and they're so quick to say it's something else. It's something else. It's this, it's this, it's this. And then you go back and you take all those symptoms and you can, use WebMD. I'll plug them. Put it in WebMD and it's going and you pop it up, or just put in the type of cancer that your child was diagnosed, and I promise you the symptoms are going to line up right next to each other. And yes, is a doctor saying, okay, it could be constipation, it could be brain cancer. We want to lean this way. Probably don't want to go over here, but cover your bases. You know what I mean? Like take the risk that this is chronic. Something's going on. Something's wrong, and this is not fixing it. Our pediatrician is great, and we still use her for our other daughters. When the diagnosis came through, when she actually got the diagnosis, she actually called us and apologized and said, I'm so sorry that we did not catch this. I'm so sorry that we didn't see this. And, we weren't mad at her. Like, honestly, it wasn't anger. It was like we were angry at the system, I guess, for continuing to tell us it's something else. And as, I'm a little bit more harsh than my wife is, in the sense that I'm like, the way that our daughter's symptoms were is that she would feel shitty in the morning, and then later in the day, it would be like nothing was going on. And so to me, I was like, what the hell? Like, does she just not want to go to school? Does she just like, mommy fawning over her? And I got angry because I was like, this is ridiculous. But that's the way that her symptoms, when if you look it up, that's the way they work. It's different during the time of day. And so then you go to the doctor and you feel a little bit better and you come home and you're like, okay, we're okay. Everything's good. No. And, I thank God every day that, honestly, that her eye turned in, because that was what got us to where we were. Otherwise, we had an appointment 2 months later to see a gastroenterologist. It was like set, which would have been useless and it wouldn't have told us anything. But that's what we would have been waiting for. And, how much worse could this have gotten in 2 months without the treatment she received when she did? And So yeah, you're fighting with all of this, trying to figure it out. And, and insurance companies, again, they won't cover it because it's not medically necessary. Medically necessary, my ass. You're not in here seeing our children. You're a doctor, as far as I'm concerned, that sold your soul to the devil and decided to sit in an office and make decisions based on charts, but not actual people. The amount of phone calls I know I made to the insurance company saying,
It's insane.
who who do you think ordered these tests? It wasn't me.
Yeah.
I didn't order an MRI. Well, it's not medically necessary and it's too soon. The doctor obviously thinks it's necessary. So what is your problem? You're getting your premium every day. You get your insurance money. So leave it alone. And then, our doctor was awesome at that point. She goes, I'll take care of it. And she would call, and within minutes she'd have it fixed. But it's like, you're not medically necessary is the greatest thing I've ever heard. I just love it when they say it's not medically necessary. Like, what exactly is medically necessary then? Like, what do you think is medically necessary? You're basically running a death panel and deciding that it's okay to deny something. I can understand not getting an MRI if you cut your finger. That's not medically necessary. But if your child's in active cancer treatment right now, and, right, and they, we have, when you're going through it, you have scheduled CTs, right, or scheduled MRIs that are just put in place every couple of months or whatever. It's always set out. But if something comes up and they want to check it sooner, then obviously the doctor sees something or wants to see something that is necessary with pursuing your child's treatment that could change it one way or the other. So yeah, listening, seeing that, and that's come up a couple times. I mean, obviously with us it did. Another friend of ours, it's the same thing. They get that not medically necessary response from insurance companies, and I would not want to be on the other end of the phone call with her, to be honest with you. And the worst part about it is that they let their secretary do the work. You can't actually ever speak to the doctors, and I requested that multiple times. Like, well, you can't speak to them. I mean, I'm sorry. I mean, how important are you?
Yeah.
I mean, you're just sitting behind a desk and saying, nope, 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 chart doesn't line up. Okay, gone. And then you're just kicking it. It's stupid. And I had to sign the forms too in the office when I'd come in the morning and they say, well, they denied it, but I just need you to sign this. It says you'll pay for it if they deny it again. No, fine, whatever, sign it. And then
My child's worth it. That's how I was. I can't tell you how many kids when we were there without parents, and I told them, I was like, there's nothing more important to me in this world than my child, and I wouldn't leave my child alone in the hospital. I'd lose my house, my car, my job. I don't care. Like, I'm going to be here with my child. But I would be on the phone every other day over chemotherapy. It's not necessary. And I'm like, it's literally life or death. It's not necessary. And, chemo's not cheap. $10,000 a pill, upwards.
yeah, it's
And not only that, you talked about, constantly we don't get the chance to research. I mean, every day, generally, you might get a couple of days off, but generally every day or every other day, there was some kind of life or death decision that you have to make. Something happened, some kind of procedure needed to be done, some kind of decision, and they need to know right then. They give you two options or they give you one, and yes or no. Either way, you either do it or, you could possibly lose your child. And they give you maybe a day, if you're lucky, to decide. And it's like, looking back, I wonder what our kids thought, because they don't know the doctor always told me, the oncologist, was that as adults, we know if we don't do treatment, we die, or we could die. Children don't know that. They just know they have to do it because their parents tell them and everybody else. But after, we made a big deal about him completing treatment and after a party, and then he finds out he has to do it again. And he was a trooper about it, but I just wonder in their heads what they really thought going through all of that. I mean, they're so innocent and optimistic, and it breaks my heart. And I would always make sure, even, I don't know if you ever had to hold your daughter down. I had to hold my son down a lot for procedures, for port sticks, for port changes, dressing changes, for so many things. And I think it's the way they go about it. Honestly, I think it was COVID, the masks. For one, think about somebody coming at you, you can't see their face. That's terrifying. And, you want to comfort them, but you have to hold them down while someone does something to them that they don't like. And then they look at you like, why did you save me? And that haunts you. Like, there's just so much in the pediatric cancer world that people don't see behind doors that make decisions about it. And just like other parents shared and I shared yesterday, it wasn't cancer that killed my child. I mean, he had 100% engraft his sister's cells. His blood type had already changed. He had not a cell of cancer in him. It was the radiation that was meant for adults. It's the treatment they're giving our kids that's killing them.
It is 100%. And you watch. You know what? I'll just say this: when they come in and administer, and especially high dose chemo, when a nurse comes in to administer, number one, there's always two because they're reading off to make sure they give you the right thing.
Oh yeah.
But they're dressed like it's a biohazard outbreak, like monkeypox, to give these drugs to your children.
Yeah.
And they explicitly, and I'm sure you heard this, explicitly tell you not to get any bodily fluids from your child on you. Because it could harm you, burn you, whatever. And number one, as parents, we're like, who gives a shit? Like,
yeah.
I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
And number two, you look at it like, what the hell is it doing to the inside of their body if I can't get what the leftovers are essentially on me at some point, and that's crazy. And yes, I think we've got a couple. I think maybe you've got 6 drugs in the world that are specifically meant for kids. But these other drugs, these high-dose chemos, that kind of stuff, yes, it is, honestly, think of an adult bottle and a kid's bottle. It is put into a smaller vial, whatever. It's not, and it's administered at a slower pace, and that makes it safe, right? Administered over 12 hours instead of over 6 hours for an adult, so it takes a little bit longer to get through you. These drugs, these treatments, these therapies destroy a body, and that's what they're meant to do. In reality, chemo is meant to destroy. That's all it knows how to do. Unfortunately, which I almost think, why is there even any different types of chemo? It's almost like one. You just need one because all it does is destroy what's in you. It's meant to turn all of the insides into a blank slate, and it still doesn't work.
No.
It doesn't.
The only thing about the blinatumomab, which they are now doing as frontline instead of the harsh chemo, is it attacks the cancer cells and not the good cells. And so Griffin thrived on it. His hair grew, his eyelashes came back. He looked, I hate to say normal, but he looked like a healthy child. And I wonder, 3 cycles of it, I wonder if I hadn't done the bone marrow transplant, could he have lived? Could he have been better? I think that any parent does that after the fact. I don't know.
We all do, and that you said it earlier, and it's 100%. What ifs will kill you, and you spend the rest of your life asking what if, and we will. We know we're not supposed to, but we're going to. It's you can't help it, and I think that I asked the exact same question because after the stem cells, that's when things got really bad, and that's when she developed leptomeningeal disease, which, I mean, for lack of a better way, the cancer cells are everywhere now. And I think it made it worse. And, but if you go back and look at it and say, what if we didn't do it? Look at the state they were in prior. Would it have made a difference? Would it have made a difference when you started chemo versus, you'd be here forever and ever, and we'll drive ourselves into an early grave ourselves trying to figure it out. And unfortunately, we're not going to ever know the answers to those questions. But I will say this: our children did not lose.
No.
Our children were not beaten by cancer. Our children won their battle, and now they're whole again, and they're able to live completely unfettered. And I will say this, I said this to my wife, I think in some ways, because of what you feel every day with your child going through this disease, your PTSD, the stress, the anxiety, I think in some ways, we as parents that have lost our children are in a better position or a better place than those that have children that are still fighting. And I only say it because of this, because every single day you live your life on the edge of your seat, wondering when that next shoe is going to drop. wondering if it will ever drop, or if that cough is just a cough, or the headache is just a headache. I love all of the families that I've come in contact with, and I love all of these kids, and I hope to God that they all stay here with us and show the world what true, genuine hearts are and innocence. And I've seen these survivors. I've seen what they can do and what they move forward into the medical field, and I love it. But I think in some ways that we just are in a better position because you're always freaked out. You're always scared. And, you know, and it's a statement. It's an observation. I'm not saying that everybody feels that way, and maybe you don't feel that way, and that's fine. But I was thinking about it the other day, thinking that, with friends that are going through this and they've got scans or they've got, whatever's coming up, and they're always freaked out. And I know that feeling. We know that feeling.
Yeah.
And, in a way, and I guess I kind of feel that way a little bit. We just went to the funeral of a friend of ours. He lost his wife and to cancer. But he is at such peace in the world right now because she won and she fought on her own damn terms. And she did what she wanted to do and passed on her own terms. And because of that, they're at peace and they're able to just celebrate the life that she had. And I think that's what we do. I think we celebrate our kids, both living and past, and we celebrate them. And, both Griffin and JC, they are whole. They're always with us. We continue to say their names and tell their stories. We continue to have good days, bad days. Facebook memories can be a good thing and a bad thing.
Yeah.
I will say this, if I lose our child when they lose their hair, it's devastating. For me, it was devastating. But that peach fuzz is just about the greatest thing on the whole planet. And she hated it when we would just rub her head. I don't know what the problem was, but
Griffin did. Oh, I get so mad. For a boy, he had really pretty hair, and he was so attached to it. Like, I almost considered getting him a wig, and it was insane because he was a boy, but he got really depressed. He was like, I am so ugly, and all the nurses made a big deal. Like, I couldn't have asked for a better hospital family. Like, that's what they become, is your family when you live in the hospital for months and months at a time. But, the only thing that brought me comfort was that we embraced living in the hospital. We basically made it our home, and he would sit in the nurse's lap. He would run around when he was able to, he would run around the unit, and the doctors knew him by name. Everybody knew him. If there was a new kid on the floor, he would just walk up to the room and be, what's your name? New parents came in, they would come and get me, and I would kind of explain of what they were looking at. Of course, Griffin went through every bad side effect you can imagine, so I was kind of like the horror story, so I didn't tell them that part of it. But parents that were newly diagnosed, I offered to just kind of talk to them about resources, and not necessarily the horrible parts, but kind of the scary parts of what they were going through, which kind of helped me also feel like I was making a little bit of a difference. But I think the hard part is going from, you said you stayed 52 days. I think the hard part is going from being in the hospital, because when you're in the hospital, you're kind of in a bubble. You're safe. If something happens, somebody runs to them and figures out what's going on. When you're at home, we were hours, 3.5 to 4 hours, depending on traffic, away from our hospital. And there were times that he would spike a fever, and I would have to get up to 1 in the morning and get him to the hospital, as fast as we could. We had a suitcase packed for that reason at all times. But, living there and being in that safe bubble, and then you lose your child, and then trying to go back to normal life, that's been hard for me even 2 years later, adjusting back to, I don't know how to explain it, when you're your child's caretaker 24/7, because that's basically what we were. You're their parent and you love them, but you have that unbreakable bond with them because you're with them 24/7. I feel like I kind of had to, and I feel awful saying this, but re-get to know my other kids, because I was away from them for so long and I missed out on, and I don't regret being with my son. I don't. I wouldn't trade that for the world. I wouldn't have wanted anyone else to do it. But you miss out on the home stuff because of the COVID. And then I feel like, had they not separated the family unit with COVID, I feel like a lot of our kids would have been healthier, because I feel like when you take their siblings and their family away, that's a big chunk of, their fight.
Mm-hmm.
They lose, playing with your siblings, even if it's in a hospital setting, that's extra. I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, but I just feel like the whole family as a unit, kids fight harder. They have more, I guess, will to fight or whatever. But when I got home, it was unnatural, I guess, to me. Um, and I don't know how to explain it, but even 2 years later, I still struggle with that. My stepdaughter was in the hospital this past weekend, and it was like it came back to me, just the monitors and the taking care of her, and just the normals of being in the hospital. Obviously, knock on, thank God she doesn't have cancer, but just being in the hospital setting. 2 years later, it just came back to me, and it's just, I wonder if that will ever kind of go back to normal.
Yeah, I don't think, honestly, I think that's one of those, it's a trigger. I can't listen to beeps on like the machines, like things like that. That's super triggering to me to hear those monitors going off, knowing what they mean and everything like that. I can't do it. And, I've been on phone calls where, kids were other families, and, we were just in the hospital with my daughter a few weeks ago because she, something happened at home, and it's the same thing. Like hearing those monitors, that freaks me out. I feel super uncomfortable and anxious sitting in the hospital, even though I know it's not, probably nothing extreme or whatever. I don't know, that whole setting. And that's always, I don't think that's ever going to go away. I think you'll get better at handling it, but yeah, it's not, I think that trigger is unfortunately forever ingrained in us. And, but the other point there too is that being at home with your family, with your siblings and stuff like that, I think is almost better medicine. And it's proven, just by us be watching it. It's better medicine than sitting in the hospital with monitors and nurses and all that kind of stuff. And I know that simply because, number one, JC loved her sisters. Like, I mean, that was when she would get on the phone with them with FaceTime and sometimes just sit there and say nothing. Just wanted to be close to them when we were in the hospital. And then when on the last long trip that we had, and she ended up developing she had a seizure, and we were there for, I believe, 11 days. And she was having, and towards the end, when she was starting to kind of come around the last few days and was communicating again, and I said, we just need to go home. I said, honestly, she's, her counts, her levels, everything like that is where it needs to be. She just needs to be home. And the nurse was like, I agree with you. Like, let's work on getting you out of here. And within a day or so of us being home, it was like she was back to her old self again. Being in that familiar environment and being around people that you understand or you love and not strangers, and it's scary. And so for being at home, there's a lot to be said for, taking care of this kind of stuff at home and being around your family. And, and again, with the whole COVID thing, I mean, I missed so much, being in the hospital with JC for her treatments, for the stem cells, and, for that stay. I missed so much. I felt guilty for a long time. I still do, but I know that my kids understood why I was there, why I was away. But you're just going to feel guilty because as a parent, you want to be a part of everything that they're doing. And I missed volleyball games and dances and all this kind of stuff that was happening, and gymnastic events. And it's like, I'm supposed to be there, but they know they're okay, but at some point, I think other children will develop, or maybe to develop, jealousy. Maybe jealousy is not the right word for it, but and they feel like, well, I'm being left out, and but I think it's just natural. I don't think it's not anything negative. It's not anything against, their sibling. I think that it's just a natural thing. Like, I want some of mom and dad's attention too. And, but we as parents in that position are like, we have to give 110% to them right now. We just have to. It's important that we're on top of all this. And even today, everything that we do as a family, organization, things like that, even today, we focus a lot on JC and focus a lot on that, while at the same time ensuring that we really, really celebrate our other kids' accomplishments, because it's important. It's important for them to know how proud we are of them, not only for what they're doing now, but how they handled going through having their sibling go through cancer and pass away and miss out on things. It's important that they know how proud we are of what they've become and what they've done and how they carry on their names.
Yeah.
And that's something that's huge for me right now too. You can't leave your other kids behind, and you can't focus so much on your grief, which we're okay to focus on our grief, but you can't focus so much on it that you forget that you have other responsibilities and you have other kids that need you. And it's like it's not an attack on anybody. It's not trying to be negative towards anybody. Everybody you grieve in your own way and things like that. But I don't know. Being a parent, my kids have said are my greatest accomplishment. I will never achieve anything higher than my kids. Like that's it. That's the pinnacle. And so ensuring that they know how important they are to me, how proud I am to be their dad, and how proud I am for what they're accomplishing now in their life is important to me. It's important to me, and it should be important to all of us to ensure that they're not left behind and they don't feel like they are. It's very heavy. It's very heavy. It's a lot of weight to carry. And it's not easy to talk about. And, but we have to, I feel like we have to talk about it. We've got to be okay with it getting rough, with it getting, difficult for us to speak, because without it, then I don't know. It just feels like you're not doing enough if you're not willing to talk about it. And I know that everybody doesn't want to talk about it, and there's some ways to grieve, and some people that we've met along the way that, kind of once this journey is over, that they don't want to be a part of it anymore. And I get it. I do. It's you don't want to be defined by it, and it's 100% okay. But I believe that the only way that we'll ever truly make a difference is by sharing this real and raw stuff, because see it on the commercial. Everybody knows what commercial I'm talking about. Everybody looks happy and healthy and like the hospital is some kind of theme park. And yeah. It's not. Like, that's just not the way that it is. Yes, obviously, right? Did Griffin go and check on people or ask what their names are, learn the people on the floor? 100%, right? These kids are innocent and they're amazing. But I can promise you they're not happy to be there. And when they're going through these treatments and they're going through all this kind of stuff, they're not smiling and happy and they're not having a good time. They are just innocent, and what they know is to be a kid. Yeah. You know what I mean? They just know, okay, this sucks, but I'm in a bed, but at least I've got my snacks and my TV, and I'm making the best of it, and it's a vacation with mom or dad. I mean, they're just making the best of the situation. Yeah. And so I hate that portrayal that it's something amazing when it's not. Like, this is what you need. Our commercials for our community need to resemble that of the ones for stray dogs and cats. Yeah. I'm just saying. With the sad music and the people crying and please, Sarah McLachlan, look me up, because that music is what needs to play. There's a picture that circulates where the kid is really skinny in the diaper throwing up and the siblings holding the back. I don't know if you've seen it. Mm-hmm. It breaks my heart. That symbolizes childhood cancer more than that hospital, and everyone talks about it, and it makes me so mad, because I'm like, it's not as it's portrayed. Everyone wanted Griffin to go there, and he got denied. Like, there's rules, there's guidelines. I won't say it's what it is, because I don't want to get in trouble or whatever, but like, it's not any cancer patient can go there. It's very, you have to fit inside this perfect box in order to go, basically. And Griffin didn't. And not only that, I would have had to pull him out of his current cancer treatment and move within a certain radius and not even be guaranteed a bed. So I was like, so you want me to pull him out of his treatment, stop his current cancer treatment to where whatever, is going on in his body could grow, not even being guaranteed he would be able to be treated there, and move, to where I know no one, and then try to get in. No, I think I'll just take my chances and move different hospitals. And that's when we found Monroe Carroll. And like I said, they were absolutely amazing. And I think that's one thing. People,
it's awful to lose a child, and people try to relate to me that have lost their adult child or have lost their parents or whatever. It's not the same. But like people, and I hate to say this, but people that have lost a child in a different way have something to be mad at, or someone to be angry with. We don't really have that. I mean, you can't be mad at the doctors or the nurses because they're only doing what they know. I mean, I'm angry with our government, obviously, and the funding and the treatments, but like we don't have one certain person to blame for all of our children's deaths. I think that sucks the worst. And so we blame ourselves because that's just the easiest thing to do. And, you know, like you said, we're supposed to be able to save our children. That's our job. It's just awful.
Yeah. No, I think you made a good point there. And it's, we don't have a person. We don't have, we don't have anything to go after with this. It's, cancer is just one of those things that we don't understand it enough as to why it happens, especially in kids. And and that's I think the biggest hinder that we have in this community. It's not funding, it's not awareness, it's not any of that. It is understanding. We don't know why. And I dared the other day to ask a question on the internet about something, and I'm not ever saying that the question I asked was creating a link between the two things that I brought up, but I asked a question and it got people all up in arms and upset. And the reality of the situation is that I think that as doctors, as scientists, as researchers, medical profession, biomedical engineers, whatever, you have to be willing to be criticized, and you have to be willing to allow average people to ask questions. Because if there's 100 studies that say that something happens because of XYZ, and we get 1,000 people that say, but wait, I don't fit that mold, then I think you need 101 studies, and I think you need to figure that out. And I don't think there's anything wrong with it. Unless I come after you as a doctor or a scientist and say, hey, you suck, you don't know what you're doing, you should get out of this, then I'm just asking you a question. Don't be threatened, because an average person with average understanding of this community ask you a question. And also don't come at me thinking that because I don't have an MD at the end of my name that I can't understand what you're talking about and I can't understand the studies. I think you'd be surprised. You know what I mean? And listen, I'll give the credit where credit's due. I think if you go after any medical mama out there, she will rip you to shreds and talk you under the table with any of this stuff. And if you think that you're going to come at them with some studies from Denmark from 16 years ago and that's going to prove your point, I feel bad for you. That's just the way that it is. And, yes, do I think that medical dads I think that we need more of a voice out there. I think when you see your child going through things, I think culturally, I think the moms are the ones that are in the front lines or on the front lines with their kids doing things. And my wife absolutely was. She's just not the one in front of the camera. That's just not the way she does things. This is me being outspoken. And I think more dads need to be in this position and be not afraid to come out here and speak and lose it on camera and just say what they need to say, because it's okay. But yeah, well, I will tell you right now that when it comes to some of the people that I've run into that I've upset because I've asked a question, I'm just going to say that when the medical moms come after you, have fun, because it's not going to be a pretty picture for you at the end of the day.
I've heard I have lots of speculations as to why I questioned my oncologist up and down as to where leukemia came from. Like, I was obsessed with what stage it was, how long he'd had it. I obsessed over how long he could have had it, and I didn't know. And she told me there was no way to know. And like, I was like going through my pictures and I was like, look, he was fine here. Well, he was tired here. He was tired here. She's like, you're going to drive yourself insane. And I was like, but as a parent, like, you have to know, like, there has to be a reason. It doesn't just happen. And unfortunately, leukemia is more environmentally, like, we lived around farm fields. The house that we lived in, the landlord slapped some metal on the outside after a tornado came through, and there was black mold growing in it. And so in my mind, I think that had a huge part of it. I'm not sure what I'm allowed to say on here and not say on here, but I have a feeling that they've been giving our kids more and more of something and pushing it, and that's where some of it's coming from. So I don't know. I just feel like more and more children are getting it to where it used to not be as prominent as it is now. It used to actually be rare, and now it's not. They still want to make it seem like it is. But set foot in a children's hospital and tell me it's rare. Set foot on a cancer, a pediatric cancer unit and see all these children. That's what really hit home for me is when we stepped foot on his home unit and seeing the kid's face, like the pictures and all the kid. I mean, when you're in a children's hospital, it's all children furniture and, children paintings, and it's all, supposed to be happy kid stuff to keep the kids occupied or whatever. But it's like, that's when it hit me that this isn't rare. And then look at how many children's hospitals there are, and you can't tell me it's rare. And then not only that, it angers me that people will say, oh, it's one in however many. And I'm like, okay, well, I used to think that too until it was my child. It used to be too hard for me. Like you said, the Sarah Lachlan commercials, I can't even watch those. I mute those. But that's what we need for people to realize how serious it is, because the happy, oh, we take care of everything, there's no bill commercial, people are just like, oh yeah, that doesn't look that bad, whatever. That's not how it is. And that commercial is triggering for me. I can't, it's on all the time and I can't listen to it. But it's definitely not rare. And something has to give, because it seems like every child, there's a few, there's maybe a handful, two handfuls of kids that we've met along the journey that are still alive, but majority of them have passed. And when he was alive, it was really hard to have to tell your child that, a friend they made isn't here anymore. And one of my best friends, her son was my best friend's son, and he carries around a little frame of my son program from his funeral and tells people that his best friend's in heaven, and they have a little birthday party for him with balloons. And it's just heartbreaking. I mean, it's bad enough for my kids, their siblings, but then I see kids out that are my son's age that he was friends with, that he should be there, and it's just like a knife in the heart all over.
Yeah. Watching these kids go through all of this and losing their friends, and trying to explain to them or take that fear away from them that it's not going to happen to them, or if they're in school, JC was in school and then she was out of school and then COVID and it was a whole situation, but her class that she was in still follows to this day. They still honor her. And we went in not too long after, and to try to talk to them and to explain to kids that are 8, 9, 10 years old why their friend's not coming back. But then to have them love her so much that they continue to carry her name every year as they go. To stand on the steps in Madison with me and scream and yell for our lawmakers because their friend's not there with them. And you realize the impact that these kids have on their own friends, on the people that they go to school with, and that those kids have to carry this with them for the rest of their life now. We don't talk enough about like the trail, like just the trail of destruction it leaves behind. And all of these kids, now listen, they're young, and at some point, I'm sure, and I know a couple of them that we've speak to that they still have really emotional times thinking about it even to this day. But they're going to grow up and they're going to have that memory with them, and it's always going to be there. And as kids, they had to go through this. And that's the biggest thing. It's like number one, cancer is a family diagnosis, like A1. It's a family. It's not just the child. It's not just the parent. It's a family. And then it's a community, and it's a school, and it's a state. They rally behind as a community. But the people that we need to change the outcome of what's happening now are the ones that are not listening. And that's part of where we need to come together, and we need more parents that I know it sucks. I know you're grieving. I know you're going through the worst time of your life. I know your kids are still fighting, whatever. I know it was newly diagnosed, whatever the case may be at that moment. We need you to stand up, and we need you to speak out, and we need you to let us know, let the world know how all of this is affecting you on a day-to-day basis, because it's that real emotion right up front, and we're here to support you. This is by far the strongest, most incredible community I've ever been a part of.
Yes.
That we all wish we weren't. But the people within this community, I promise you, are moving mountains and will continue to do it. But we just need more and more and more people to stand up and be willing to not only share your stories, to go to your representatives, to speak out, reach out to your news stations, do whatever you have to do. Continue to utilize social media. It's a love-hate, but it's there. Share your stories, because to be honest with you, it doesn't always have to be bad. Our kids' stories are incredible, right? From the day they were born to the day that they passed, all they cared about was smiling, being a kid, and they cared about us. They cared about how we were going to be okay at young age, and wondering how we're going to cope instead of being upset or mad. That's just because that's who they are. And we need to share that. We need to share that part. But we also need to share the bad stuff. And unfortunately, that means the pictures that we have, the stories that we have, the sounds that we have in our head, the smells that we have in our head, everything that we dealt with along the way. We need to share that, because that's when it's going to get people to stop and say, okay, is it really that bad? Yes, it is. Because when you see that commercial with the animals, it makes you sad, doesn't it? It makes you sad. You want to open up your wallet. I've got 11 fucking animals in my house right now, okay? I know that commercial's working, all right? It's working. But the other one, the other side of it, is that we're not seeing it as bad as it is, because it makes it look like everything is good. I will say that it was last year was the first time that I ever saw that commercial where they went back and said, this child passed away. The first time that I ever saw them highlight that the fact that it passed away.
Wow.
And that was it. But that was after all the good stuff, and then you get to and unfortunately this child passed away. Commendable. But at the same time, you're still making it look like everything is so great, and it needs to be bad. It doesn't need to be. Research is getting better and the survival rates are going up, but we need your help. Research is not getting better. Survival rates are not going up. Survival rates are going up. But the 95% recurrence rate after 5 years, and the 95% chance that they're going to have a hell of an adverse reaction later in life, is going up. Okay? And that survival rate that you give is for 5 years, because you're cancer-free at 5 years. That's a magic number.
Yeah.
So at 5 years, that's your survival rate. How many after that 5 years are declining? How many after that 5 years are developing heart problems and other major health issues? How many of these children can never have kids, right? They can't have kids. They lose their ability to see, to speak. They go deaf. JC went deaf in one ear because of one of the chemo treatments. It's the detriment to their body. They're learning to walk again, learning to do all of these things, and later on in life, it is affecting you. That's what they don't talk about. We need all the numbers. Don't say they've got an 80% survival rate. Great. What happens after 5 years? What is the survival rate then?
Yeah.
So that whole situation. And you know what? One of these days, I'm going to work and find a way to interview that place. And we'll see if they'll ever come forth and actually just speak like normal people and understand. It's not a gotcha moment. It really isn't, because I think that what they do is incredible. I think that what they can accomplish and their research and their studies and things that they've been able to develop, I think are great. I will give them that all day long. As a matter of fact, I reference them. When I'm trying to come up with something here in Wisconsin that I'm working very hard on right now, I say we can be making that level of discoveries here. Yeah. So I reference it. But you've got to come with a better way of showing it that doesn't actually, to me, do detriment to your own fundraising. Because why would people donate to something that's okay?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you're saying, okay, well, everything's good. Everything's good. Do we just need money to keep it good? No, we need money to fix what you don't show, what goes on behind the other side of that door. And I know that it's not pretty, and I know that nobody wants to talk about it. Nobody wants to see it. Nobody wants to hear it. But we did. And so you need to. And that's where I'm going to leave it, I think. I think that we need to know what goes on the other side of the door. You need to know what goes on the other side of the door. We already do. We need you to open the door and show us that, because that's important. It sucks. I mean, what does the news do when they want to show you how bad something is in another country? They show you how bad it is in another country.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what about when they show you that the kids have no clean water or food to drink? Do they show them literally in the worst conditions ever? I don't know. This seems to be like the only marketing scheme that is completely the opposite of what's actually happening. So one day, that'll be a goal. I'm telling you, one day, come hell or high water, I'll find a way to be able to speak with them, because I think that they're good people. I do. I just, it's kind of like, you know, it's presenting it in a bad way. It's presenting a good meal on a trash can lid. And we need to find a way to do it the opposite, so that discoveries can then be a part of the rest of the world, and you can share it, and people are like, okay, here's the reality of what's happening. But again, that could go on for hours. So I will say this. I think this has been great. It's, you know, great in a sense of the conversation, not great in the sense of the topic. But what I like to do at the end of every episode, or what I like to do is I like to ask my guests for advice, and advice that you would give to a parent that may be newly diagnosed, that may be going through this right now, or advice you'd give to a parent that has lost their child, and something that, from your own personal experience, what you could share with another parent going through this.
For the first question, I would say, like we talked about earlier, always trust your gut. You know, mamas, dads, you know best. You know your child. If you are not happy with your doctor, your nurse, whatever they're giving you, find a second opinion, a third, a fourth. You know, your child's life is more important than hurting a doctor or a nurse feeling. Secondly, I am in, it was 2 years, the 31st of January, since I lost Griffin. And I think the first year I was in shock. I think I'm just now really starting to process. I would say my biggest thing is to do whatever you have to do, grieve how you have to grieve, and don't worry about what other people think or say. I think I was so worried about trying to please other people and not burden them and not, you know, inconvenience them, that I just shut down and I just shoved it down, and I never really processed it, and I did more harm to myself in the process. So you have to take the time for you and your family. By family, I mean your children, your spouse, yourself, and really realize, you know, that your child is, you'll see them one day, but, you know, not in this life, in that you have to figure out how best to move, like you said, not on, but forward, and how you're going to honor them, and that you can have happy thoughts and memories of them, and it's not betraying them. You can have new memories and new moments that don't include them and not feel guilty. I'm not there yet. I still struggle with the family pictures and calling them family pictures, because my son's not in them. But you can do things. You can go on vacations and you can do stuff like that, and it's not a betrayal to your child that you lost. I think that's the biggest thing, is learning how to still have a life with your other children and your spouse, or if you're single, or whatever, not just completely shut down from the world and fall apart, because your child wouldn't want that for you either. You know, all your child wanted when they were here was for you to be happy, and they wouldn't want you to just wither away. I'm a big fan of therapy. Some people don't believe in it, but I think in this case that's what's gotten me through a lot, is therapy and good friends and family. So don't be afraid to lean on people. Don't be afraid to accept the help, because you're going to need it. I think that's my biggest advice.
I think it's perfect. I think that, you know, the whole not being afraid to lean on people is huge. I think that even, you know, for us, even years later, we've always wondered, how to ask for help or when it's okay to ask for help, while not feeling like you're just not enough at the same time. And so asking for help and leaning on people is okay. I think it actually does prove that you're a stronger person to realize that you need the help. So that's a big one. And I agree, lean on people, even if it's something simple as just somebody listening to you gripe on the phone and never saying a word, or going out to coffee just to get out of the house for, whatever it takes. Be okay with leaning on people when they ask you for help. Somebody said something to me one time: if somebody offers you something, always say yes, because when you say no, they may never offer it again. And so it's simple. It's simple things, and if they offer, like, I guess what it comes down to is at that point, if someone's saying, hey, do you want a coffee, and you say no, I'm okay, and you say okay, well, then they may never offer that coffee again. It could get deeper into that, but really it's just be okay with asking and saying it. And if people are offering it, they're trying to be nice. And the other thing to piggyback on is family. This community has something that's called the 80-20, and the 80% is not the part you want to be in, because the 80% of couples and families break up during this type of diagnosis, because it will rip your family apart. And so you don't want to be a part of that. I'm not saying nothing wrong, okay, but you want to be part of the 20, and there's no way to figure out how to do it. It's one of those things that becomes very hard. It's very stressful. You don't take care of yourself because that's not your biggest concern. Relationships can suffer because you're not focusing on that. And again, I've always said, it's not because you fall out of love with that person or whatever the case. It's because the stress can tear people apart because you don't know how to react to all of this. My wife and I have tried to answer the question. I don't know how we came out on the other side of it. I really don't. It just happened. And I would say it's because we understand each other, but then it's like I'm telling other people that they don't understand each other. And that's not the case. I think that something worked for us. We stuck it out, and we're still working it out, and we're together. And that's good. But there's 80% is a big number, and really focusing on yourself and taking that time to realize that, again, your child's sick. They're going through something terrible. If you've got a good friend that can come over for an hour so that you can go on a date, that's okay. You're not doing anything wrong. We had to struggle with that. And luckily we had a friend that was a nurse that came and stayed with her for a little while. We went to the hardware store and walked around. We didn't go anywhere special or anything like that because our minds were stuck on her. But we got out of the house. You got out of that environment just for an hour. That's okay. I want everybody to understand that doesn't mean you love your child any less because you needed a break. Because at some point your body will tell you need a break, and it's not going to be in a nice way. So you have to take care of yourself. And again, like I said, sometimes it's for the best, sometimes it's not for the best, but just know that this world, this community, everything that we go through, it is tough on people and tough on relationships and tough on families. And it's important to focus as much as you can on ensuring to keep everything together the best that you can. It doesn't mean there's anything wrong with couples or families that break up because of this. There's a lot of stress, and none of us know how to handle it. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I wish I had an answer, because somebody did ask me a few years ago, and my wife and I sat down. I think we did an episode, and we tried to talk about it. And I don't know that we really know what the answer is. My wife at one time said, yes, I thought we were going to break up. I thought this was going to tear us apart because we were fighting more and more and more about dumb shit. And I think that it's because we were so tired and exhausted that everything irritates you, right? Stop breathing like that, stop and knock it off, that little stupid shit. And you don't realize how much damage it's doing to you kind of mentally. We only focus on the physical side. And so my only thing is just focus as much as you can on understanding that you have to take care of you. I call it the oxygen mask theory. You have to put yours on first before you can help anybody else, because if you're not breathing, they're not breathing. You know what I mean? You're not helping them. So it's not always going to work out. It's life. If we had the answer, well, then we could save it. We could put it to a full 100% of everything works out, and we don't have the answer.
I think that's the hardest thing, is that I don't take anything from my dad, so parents in general, but me as a mom, like, I will literally take care of my kids or whoever until I can't stand. When my son relapsed, we got to the hospital, and like you said, your body will tell you when you need a break. They ended up having to take me down the ER. They thought I was having a heart attack. I was having a panic attack. Something worse happened while I was down there. But besides that, I am, I guess, a part of the 80% because we got separated and divorced. It was not from our son's cancer, even though he posted that. We had problems way before that, and I think maybe the cancer diagnosis exacerbated those issues, but we tried to stay together. I mean, obviously, you need both parents during a cancer diagnosis. It's just, there's no way to do it. I mean, single parents do it, but it would be, I can't imagine. One parent needs to be at home with the other kids while one's in the hospital. But, I mean, we did what we had to do for our kids. But I have heard of the 80-20, and I think that what you said, the date and putting people first. But, I mean, some people just aren't meant to be together, and that's okay too. I don't know. I think if you can make it work, like you guys staying together, that's amazing. I think the hardest part of losing a child and being divorced is that the only person that can really relate to what you're going through is the person that you're trying to heal from. And so that's really hard. But also, as you said, we've seen things that no one else has seen. I went through the last inpatient stay, the bone marrow transplant, by myself with Griffin, and I saw things I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy, and I alone saw those, and so those I have nightmares about, and those are the kind of things that our political figures or whatever you call them need to see, and I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy, but I think until something like that happens to someone immediate in their family, their child, which I would never ever wish, but I think until that happens to someone up high, nothing's going to change because it doesn't affect them. And I think until it does affect, and like I said, I am no way wishing that on them. I would never. But I just think that's the way the world works. Until it affects someone immediately that can make a change, then nothing's going to change, unfortunately.
No, I agree with you 100%. Unless it affects you, it's easy to turn around, walk away, and say, it's not that big of a deal. Or it's, we're being told that everything is okay, so I don't know what you're crying about, type of thing. And it's unfortunate that we as families feel like that. But, and I've often said too that if you get the opportunity to go and speak to a representative, a senator, whatever, and you're in their office, I guarantee they've got their kids' pictures on their desk. And I've always held back from it. But at the same time, I want to look at it and say, I want you to look at your kids right now. And I want you to realize that you could get a phone call right now that says that the same thing has happened to you, because there is no reasoning for this. You know what I mean? And you're what's happening. Like, we weren't cancer parents until the day we were. So the day prior, we didn't think that was the issue. We didn't think that was the problem. We didn't think we were going to be admitted on the pediatric oncology floor. We didn't think we were going to be admitted for, emergency, brain surgery or emergency, whatever. It's like we didn't think that, but it could be you any moment. If you've gone through a cancer diagnosis yourself as an adult and you have kids, I want you to look at your kids, and I want you to, everything you went through, and I want you to put that on them. Does it matter now? It's harsh, and I don't want anybody to ever feel the way that we have felt or the way that we feel now, but I want you to understand that it's real and it's a reality that because we don't understand, it could be you any day of the week. And then I guarantee all day long you would be pushing bills and passing legislation and fighting for funding, and you'd be like, God, I should have listened to him. Yeah, because wouldn't you rather have the research and the funding in place just in case something happens? Wouldn't you rather have that? Don't we have the TSA in place just in case? It wasn't there before. You put these things in to ensure the safety of what moves forward, and we're trying to fix things. You've got to have the infrastructure, and we don't have it, which means that every single day, because the number has gone up, and so it used to be 43 and now it's 47. So today, 47 families will hear the words, your child has cancer. At the end of this year, 1,800 families are going to be told there's nothing more we can do. Make memories. 1,800 families are going to hear that last heartbeat like us. And we don't want you to feel that. I don't want that memorial in D.C. to get bigger every damn year. I don't want to have to do that. I don't want to have to carry shoes there that will never take another step. I don't want to do that. They are this small up to teenagers. And when you see shoes this big, okay, you understand that at some point a child had those on, was the light of their parents' lives. And now you're seeing those shoes that will never walk again. And it's powerful. But those people that we talk about that need to listen are not there. We're in their own damn town, and they're not there. People that are there don't even know why we're there in mass. And that's the problem. So I will say this. We are not going to stop sharing these stories. We are not going to stop advocating until change happens. And I hope that that change doesn't happen because it affects somebody in a way that they feel it needs to happen now. I want you to feel it from what we're telling you as parents. I want you to understand we've gone through it. We don't want others to go through it because this is not the way it's supposed to be. Yeah. Your kids are supposed to grow old and take care of us when we're old and senile and a pain in the ass. That's what they're supposed to do. Okay? They're supposed to do that for us. We're not supposed to plan their funeral. So I think I'm going to end it there. I think we could probably talk for 5 more hours about this and keep going. And maybe we'll come back and we'll do it again too, because I think there's a lot of stuff that we can continue to cover. And, again, this just proves how much knowledge there is there. And experience, I think, outweighs, a classroom every day. So again, I appreciate you taking the time to do this. I know it was hard, but I'm honored to have met you. I'm honored to have carried Griffin shoes 2 years in a row to CureFest. And every year that you're not able to do that, I will do it for you. Our family will do that. We'd love to have you there. It's some place where you're with people that truly understand and can truly say, I understand. And it's a support group like no other. But I will just say that. I appreciate you taking this time today. JC, we love you, kiddo. Griffin, your mom's awesome, and she's carrying your name out there. And we're going to continue to do this for you guys because we know you do it for us. So I thank you so much, Amber, for being with me today.
Thank you for giving me the time and letting me share my story, and it's an honor to meet you. I know JC and Griffin are having time of their life in heaven.
They're having parties. Anytime you hear thunder and rain and stuff like that, that's up there dancing, and we just know that's what they're doing, and that's okay. And we'll see them one day, and I can't wait to hear all the stories.
Me either. Thank you.
Absolutely. So we will see everybody else next week.